start these things is with a song. And I usually just start singing, but since Mr. Waters here needs to get his computer together, I'll say a little bit about why we do start that way. We start that way because, number one, it just feels right. And that's the way the meetings that I grew up in start. You start with a song. And I suspect that's because most of the people who were leading the meetings came out of the black church. And in the black church tradition, you open the spirits. You open with the spirit, and you would sing until the spirit filled the space, and then you can start. And we usually use songs, and so I've continued that just because that's where I come from. Even though a lot of times the people I'm doing it with don't know that tradition. And just a note, we don't care if you can sing. You know, and I have a cold, so who knows what it's going to sound like when I sing. In fact, I have a theory that if you don't sound good, people will join in with you. You know? And so what I've learned since I've continued doing this with people that may not come out of that tradition is that it's valuable because it helps me to set the ethics for what the meeting is about. So, because we're going to sing a song that comes from here, and invariably, whatever that is, it's going to tell you what the agenda is, you know. And two, it gives us an opportunity to do something together. This is congregational singing, not Wendy's performance, you know, so we will get a chance to be in unity from jump. And that'll help to lift up Mr. Waters, whether the technology works or not. Because we're all in it together. And don't be shy, because this is your opportunity to support the group, you know. So that's why we do it. Let's see, this song. This is what I've been singing a lot lately. And I like it because it's something that comes from enslaved people, you know. And my teacher who taught it to me says that when you hear enslaved people talking about I got a right to the tree of life, then that's revolutionary. Because these are people who don't even own their bodies talking about I got a right to the tree of life. So if enslaved people can say that and know that, for me to receive it and feel it, then it must be true for me and for everybody else. So, Lord, Lord, I got a right. Oh, Lord, Lord, I got a right. Oh, Lord, 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 I got a right. I got a right to the tree of life, and you got a right. Oh, Lord, Lord, you got a right. Oh, Lord, 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 you got a right. You got a right to the tree of life, and we got a right. Oh, Lord, Lord, we got a right. Oh, Lord, 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 we got a right. We got a right to the tree of life. I told you I got a right. I got a right. I told you I got a right. I got a right to the tree of life. You got a right to the tree of life. We got a right to the tree of life.
We got a right to the tree of life. We got a right to the tree of life.
It doesn't work if everybody doesn't do it.
We got a right to the tree of life. We got a right to the tree of life.
That was great. It really helps if you have somebody to really sing.
not what you would call internet sophisticated. I have 12 grandchildren, and every one of them, all the way to the youngest, who I think is 4 now, whenever they come around me, they say, "Papa, you can't do this, you can't do that, can't do anything." All I know is I call on this phone and answer it. So if anybody was trying to text me, wondering where I was or running a few minutes late, I don't know how to text. So you know you can respond. And I need them, whenever I'm trying to do something on a computer, I need their help. But of course, when you really need them, they're not around. But let me share with you what I hope to do tonight. First of all, let me thank you, particularly Ms. Wendy O'Neill, for giving me the opportunity to share some things with all of you. And I find this as a very beneficial opportunity to talk with people who are seriously interested in social change, okay? I don't believe in quote-unquote speaking because it's hard to remember things after the speech is over with. And what I try to do is always make a copy of any public statement I make. So that you would have a copy of it. Then you go back and kind of review it, read it, think about it, study it, and what have you. That's why I do this. I ran into problems today that I couldn't, my call it this, flash drive was full. And I did not know how to maneuver that Kinko's. They were trying to help me, but they were overwhelmed with people. So I said, well, I'll just have to do without it. But I had hoped to take this 2-page piece and make copies from front and back so you people could follow along. And what I would like to do is still do that until people at least have a copy of it to review what have you. This is what it is this. I'm speaking about the history of New Orleans, the history really of the movement in New Orleans, for the last 25 or 35 years. Okay. The first part, I'm trying to lay a basis for people to understand in what context this movement is developing in. And frankly, it's the same context of any people anywhere in the world. And then I go to the particular of New Orleans, using it, let's say, as a specimen on a microscopic slide. You're going to examine it. You're going to study it. You're going to look at it from its ideological angles. You're going to look at it from its political angles. You're going to look at it from its financial angles, in order to be able to get a comprehensive understanding of the struggle going on in New Orleans, which is not that fundamentally different from the struggle anywhere in the world. Okay? Are you with me so far?
Yes.
So what I want to do is give you my understanding of the context that all of this is flowing from. Then I'll go into the particular, and then we can open up exchange, discussion, further elaboration. Okay? We live in a world that is dominated by a handful of wealthy countries or imperialist countries. These handful of countries and their respective states oppress the majority of countries around the world. The United States is the wealthiest of all the imperialist and capitalist countries in the world. In each country, the struggle between labor and capital, or the exploited class and the exploiting class, or simply put, the poor and the rich, is the basic contradiction in every country. The class struggle moves society forward or backward. At the same time, in many countries, there are oppressed nations or nationalities that exist inside countries that suffer from a double yoke of oppression. Not to be oblivious of those nations or nationalities outside wealthy countries also. Not only are the majority of the oppressed nations or nationalities exploited as workers, but they also suffer from national oppression, or as sometimes called, a system of discrimination and oppressor nation chauvinism, commonly referred to as racism. Therefore, these oppressed nations or nationalities suffer a double yoke of oppression. In the southern part of the United States, an oppressed nation exists, known as the African American or Black nation, on the former large plantation territory. The majority of these people are exploited as workers, but also suffer from double national oppression. The African American people, like all other oppressed nations, are divided by social classes, with an American small bourgeois or capitalist class aspiring for hegemony. It is this class of bourgeoisie that strives to be a junior partner with the Anglo-American or the white billionaire capitalist class. Hence, these junior partners serve as traitors or opportunists to the interests of the large laboring black masses. The struggle for a complete emancipation of the African American nation people and the struggle for liberation from exploitation or from wage slavery is bound up with these contradictions. There is no quick answer or quick solution. The process to solve these contradictions requires a serious, patient, disciplined, and scientific approach. Victory can be achieved, and victory can be sustained. We must indeed be guided by history. Obviously, New Orleans, Louisiana is one area where these contradictions exist. It is also an area that is rich in history, especially in the class-conscious struggle. For those who are truly serious about social change, the study of history must be included in one's scientific studies. History includes the class battles, the summation of struggles, especially from the point of view of the oppressed, the struggles and battles between ideas, as written in pamphlets, magazines, newspapers, and books, political groupings and parties and their actions, parliamentary struggles, demonstrations and protests, battles, revolts, and certainly wars. In every town this exists, especially when it is not publicly evident. Hence, it is the job of those who genuinely seek social change to seek, to probe, to locate, and to study all facets of capitalist society: ideological, financial, political, economic, and military. Now, today's subject is New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay? I'd like to share with you a brief timetable. Again, I apologize, because the next piece is like in 2 columns. You really need to have this in your hand. There's dates on the left side, and there's certain specific struggles that are taking place at a certain stage in time in this city. Okay? Let me back up by saying this. When I came on the scene, between the ages of 16 and 17, as a result of being moved or stirred by what I saw on TV during quote-unquote the civil rights days, it impressed me or had an impact on me that I too would like to join in. I too want to be a part. I too have been a victim of the signs, the brutality, the insult, etc. So I was drawn by that which was active, moving, okay? But I had no real understanding if it was genuine or it was sham. It'd be over a period of time that I would learn to get more mature and more educated about this, because there's a genuine movement of genuine people, and there are opportunists and opportunist groups and organizations, okay? And what got me going was the militancy and the inflammatoriness of a brother named H. Rathburn, who came from Louisiana, Baton Rouge, who would become a major SNCC leader. And then when SNCC came into Student National Organization, breaking with the philosophy of nonviolence, it became like a militant rally organization agitating that turning of the cheek and the philosophy of nonviolence is absolutely ridiculous. We have to defend ourselves, and at some point we have to consider moving from defending ourselves to that of planning and going to open rebellion, open planning insurrections.
H. Brown is now an imam.
Yes,
Who's a political prisoner in Georgia.
when they moved.
They did?
Yeah, he's somewhere in Colorado.
Colorado,
the
yeah.
Western states.
Supermax.
Okay. Brief timetable, 1967 to 1968. What is going on? All USA-wise, this is the height of the African American national liberation struggle. The early 60s were building up, rebellions were taking place across the country, and by the time 1967 came to 1968, you were averaging within 2 years over 150 revolts throughout the entire country. What was happening here in New Orleans was that there were attempts to strike a blowback. These were very spontaneous, immature, not really developed, and it reflected that in the amateurishness of the people at that time, and seeing what was taking place in Detroit, which was huge. It was the largest at that time urban explosion in this country, and it would remain that until Los Angeles would come about in 30, 40 years later. And of course, this was the time when the assassination of Dr. King took place, which was in many ways the culmination of people saying that this nonviolence thing has to go. From 1968 to 1975, what you had in this city was the emergence of revolutionary nationalist organizations, for one thing. You had the beginnings of the Black Panther Party coming into being here, which had its start in a neighborhood 4 or 5 blocks from what was then called the Calliope Housing Project. It would be forced to move around, so to speak, where it later moved to a neighborhood 3 or 4 blocks from the housing project, get its name, that's next to Walmart on Chapatulas. Yes, Thomas. Yeah. And then later it would move again to one of the homes or residences across the street from the Zion Housing Project. There was an early attempt to get it going in 68 or 69, but that was in the time when the leadership had decided that we're being heavily invaded by the authorities, and so we were going to slow down. A year later, then it started here. At the same time, you had another revolutionary national organization really getting going called the Republic of New Africa, the RNA, which agitated and popularized for the secession of 5 or 6, Mac can correct me, of southern states, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina.
Florida.
And one of the leaders of that organization was named Miss Virginia Collins. She had been a nationalist all her life. She was 11 years old. She waved at Marcus Garvey when he was in town on the ship at the Mississippi River. She lives today. She's 95, I believe.
What's her name?
Her name is Virginia Collins.
And they call her Sister Dara.
Her African name is Sister Dara. At one time, she was vice president of the Republic of America.
No, she was president.
President of the
When
Republic.
Mario was president, she was president.
And she has been a revolutionary nationalist just about all her life. Today, at that age today, though, she is, age is taking its toll. Okay. And her children are doing their best. She has about 12, 13 children, trying to, take care of mom. Those were like the black nationalist type of groupings here. You had also 2 main communist groupings here. One was called the Black Workers' Congress, and the other was called the Communist League. The Black Workers' Congress grew out of the struggles in Detroit. It got its beginning from an organization known as the League of Revolutionary Black Workers, which at one point had a few chapters in Detroit, Akron, Ohio, a whole automobile industrial heartland. And it would develop into later what would be called the Black Workers' Congress, We had chapters in many parts of the North and some parts of the South, particularly New Orleans, Atlanta, a few other places in the South, and the West Coast.
Why do they have a chapter in New Orleans?
They had a chapter in New Orleans as a result of the fact that there's those little industry here. We also went out in the 50s, but we had longshoremen who had a militant history. We had Avondale Shipyards, which many attempts have been made to organize, unionize that. But probably more so, some of the active revolutionary-minded people who lived here were associates of people in Detroit. And that led to the development of those people, particularly a brother named Lionel McIntyre, who's not active today, of a group called the Louisiana Association of Black Students. Coming out of that and coming out of a group called Southern Conference Educational Fund, which had its, it was a Anglo-American and Black Southern organizing type of organization that worked with pulpit workers, worked with industrial workers in the South and cities. The people associated with that had association with people up north who were seeking a much more higher understanding of revolution. Okay? Such being the case, a chapter was here. I later was attracted to that and joined. And then you had another group called the Communist League that started in the North, I believe in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, and it spread in different places. And their leading member, I don't know if he'd be upset if I say this or not, but he's a public figure, is Ted Quant, who is at Loyola. So if he gets upset that Leon said that, well, come to see.
You mean like he should be proud?
The point is, these were the groupings. And the other point is, everybody doesn't necessarily stay to it, okay? Some have given up, all right? Let me be frank with you. Some have given up, some have thrown out the towel, and some have crossed the fence and gone to the enemy's side, all right? You should be aware of that. At that time, between 1968 and 1975, what was happening in the country, particularly with these quote-unquote groups calling themselves revolutionary, the understanding of what is called the most important task that needs to be done, the understanding of what is it all of us collectively should be doing, emerged. And that understanding crystallized itself in the form of the main task for revolutionary, particularly the main task for communists, is to build a genuine revolutionary party. All right?
Can you say what you mean by revolutionary?
Yeah. The main task at that time, and still today, is that there's a need for what's called an organization of professional revolutionaries, crystallized in an organization in the form of what's called a party. A party is a special kind of organization. It's not a trade union. It's not a temporary mass coalition to fight this issue or fight that one issue. It is an organization that has the most dedicated, the most committed, the most principally sound, and the most theoretically and ideologically clear people in revolutionary theory. They are, in a sense, the advanced detachment of all organizations. It's like having an ego above all others. But this ego, this part, is not separate from anybody. It's very well molded, welded, integrated in all the traditional mass organizations that exist amongst the masses, such as your trade unions, such as your women's groups, such as your youth organizations, etc. It has a public face for certain people, and it has an invisible face to protect it. Okay? All right. Let me back up a second. I just made 60 last December. Twice I should stop saying I just. So when I came involved, began to get active, unfortunately, there was not existing people who were still alive, okay, who were around to systematically introduce me to a number of things. Before I became active, there was a grouping that tried, whose job was to continue to be able to pass this on to those coming. And that was the Communist Party. At that time, there were two people left in this city. A Mr., forget his first, Rogers, his lovely wife, Elizabeth Rogers. Okay. There was nobody else, and of course, at this time, they are up in age. Unclear to them, the organization that they were still with and still dedicated to them has betrayed itself. The Soviet Union would collapse after the death of Joseph Stalin, and under the leadership of Nikita Khrushchev, they would begin to tear down, dismantle what's called the dictatorship of the working class, or another way of putting it, the rule of the working people, and begin to restore the rule of the bourgeoisie. Okay? And for a long time, the Soviet Union would get away with things by keeping the socialist mass on, but behaving, conducting itself just like the capitalist states of Europe would have. So the restoration of everything the people fought to get rid of began to now come back and introduce itself. So here I am coming on the scene about 16 or 17 years old. There is no one, there's a vacuum, all right, here in New Orleans. To be able to properly educate and orientate me on what has happened, the loss we have that has developed, and where do we go from here? So in that vacuum, you begin to work kind of blindly. You begin to do things that have already been done, but you don't know this. You begin to attach yourself to this or attach yourself to that without any real theoretical clarity. So in the course of time, if you stick with it, if you stuck with it, you will begin to learn, oh wow, now I understand. So you begin to study, you begin to read, you begin to get clear. One of the things I said as I got older was, I hope if I'm not able to see the fruit of all our labor, that I hope we'll be in a position to have such a good foundation that the new generation that's coming, we can clearly educate them so they don't have to kind of spontaneously run around without clarity, without direction. And that's what theory does. Theory gives you guidance. And in this type of work, you have to be guided by theory, what we call evolutionary theory. Okay, so at this stage in time, the main task is to build one organization. Okay? So for a period of about several years, in the early 70s, an attempt was made to bring these groupings, like the Revolutionary Union, which I think is based in Chicago, a group called the October League, a group called the August 29th Union, a Chicano group on the West Coast, a group called the Puerto Rican Revolutionary Organization. That's not the correct name. Puerto Rican,
Pro.
A number of organizations.
Revolutionary Workers Organization.
Okay. A number of organizations that espouse communist philosophy. Okay. There was an attempt to bring all of these groupings together, since we all claim what? That we're communists, right? That attempt was not successful, mainly because some of us who thought we had a correct line on this question actually did not. Some of us who thought we had a correct position on this, actually not. And this would work itself out through more debates and more struggle. Unfortunately, the struggle to continue to build a party, get a party, did not progress but kind of decline. We're at the stage today where this still is the most important task. Because in the absence of a very strong, theoretically clear, politically correct organization like this that has a sound platform, a sound program, all of the struggles that take place today are struggles that are going to be isolated, localized, and narrow. They're going to be limited. But when you have an organization like a party, which is the highest kind of organization to have, then you can begin to build what's called all USA-wide struggles. So if something happens in New Orleans, and something's happened in New York, and something's happened in Miami, and something's happened in LA, it's better to be able to coordinate these things on an all-USA basis, as opposed to the little millions of efforts we're doing isolated, not connected. I'll give you an example I'm talking about. In 1955, the phone company went on strike. Phone companies made women workers, right? Several nationalities. White workers were the main workers. Black workers, black women were the largest minorities. And the Hispanics that was existing in the country then. We hardly didn't have too many Asians then. They went on strike. It was an economic struggle. They went on strike for higher wages. AT&T, they had a monopoly with the 7 mile regions, said, you know, we're not kidding about it. We don't worry about y'all. We're not going to submit to y'all. Strike lasted approximately several days. Not too long, it'll get past 5 days. The union leadership, which is not as corrupt as it is today, not as corrupt then, appealed to the United Steelworkers for assistance. United Steelworkers called for a sympathy strike. They also appealed to several other large unions. They called for a sympathy strike to support the women workers of the phone company. Within 4 to 5 days, the strike was over. Steel wasn't moving. Coal wasn't moving. Other industries wasn't moving. You see, they were able to take a struggle, magnify it, unite the class that was heavily concentrated in industry, and win that strike.
Is that like the strike that happened here?
No. Yeah, the women's strike was here in other parts of the South. But what brought it quickly to a halt was the power of labor, especially in the key industries. All right. Now today, we don't have those kind of strikes because all the union leaders are like Donald Trump, basically. Go to work with suits on, $1,000 suits. They're part of the trade union bureaucrat. They're part of the capitalist state apparatus. They're all in cahoots now, sleep in bed with all Republican Democratic Party.
But
I'm just trying to illustrate.
I'm curious about that strike here.
Okay.
You just have to say a little bit about it.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to illustrate what I mean by a class-wide struggle. You see?
Doesn't that illuminate it?
Yes. All right.
The strike that happened here.
Yes.
What was it?
1892.
Oh, no, not that strike. No, just 1955.
I know, but I just can't help but see it.
Oh, that's another struggle, another discussion. We're talking about from 1968 to present.
Right.
All right. Well, in the spirit of, I see what you're saying. In the spirit of not being localistic, okay, in the spirit of not being individualistic, you know, like this is our struggle. You guys stay away, you know. We're the bus driver. We don't need your help, that kind of stuff. Briefly, in 1892, following the counter-revolution, I call it counter-revolution because that's what it was. Your history books tell you there was what was called, following the defeat of the Confederacy, we had a period called Reconstruction. Reconstruction should never be called Reconstruction. It was a counter-revolution. In the process of trying to consolidate power, the blacks who came to power with their allies, with their white allies, suffered a setback. History has many examples of this. Those who were overthrown worked with a vengeance to come back. And they were able to come back and they overthrew the new Republican government, and they held power for approximately 3 days. There's a statue on the other side of Weston called the White Supremacy Monument that's dedicated to them. These were members of what was called the White League. They weren't the Klan. They didn't have masks or costumes like the Klan. They had just everyday clothes. They were judges, they were lawyers, they were dentists. They carried this out.
Sounds familiar.
They, your ancestors were attempting to have a convention to change the state constitution of Louisiana to give people, black people in particular, the right to vote, the right to own property, a number of democratic rights and measures. When they were attacked by the New Orleans police, the mayor at that time, and the former ex-Confederates, they attacked them at a place called the Mechanics Institute, which is about a 6 or 7 story building where the state legislature temporarily would have some sessions there. Today, the Roosevelt Hotel or the Fairmont Hotel sits in that spot where this counter-revolutionary slaughter took place. As many as 150 or more of us were killed and seriously wounded. Okay. You made me digress. Now, I got into that and want to do something else. Getting back to 1892, sorry. Following this whole counter-revolutionary wave, following the failure of quote-unquote Reconstruction, probably 25, 30 years later, given all the tremendous white chauvinism existed, segregation, what have you, a spectacular feat was accomplished. In April of 1892, the streetcar drivers went on strike and fought for the Union shop, close shop, and they won. In October 24th to be exact, 1892, the black workers who made up the bulk of the Teamsters and the white workers who made up the majority of the scalesmen and the packers formed what was called an alliance, a triple alliance, to fight jointly for better working conditions. They went on strike for higher wages, and it was about 2,000 to 3,000 of them. The city population at the time was 100,000.
Did you hear that?
But the employing class, which was represented by the Board of Trade, took a firm stand that it would not yield to them. The Board of Trade is located in the 300 block of Magazine Street. It's still there today. And the struggle escalated amongst the workers who were able to pull together a united front of the working class in the form of what's called the Working Men's Amalgamated Council. They were located at 87 Exchange Place, which today, the building exists, but next time you downtown and you see the Holiday Inn from Canal Street next to Popeyes, that alley was Exchange Place. So it was a half distance down. The workers had their office, which was about 5 or 6 blocks from where the bosses had their office at Board of Trade. So they figured that if we can get the majority of the unions to support us, we could shut this city down. And this had never happened. There was no general strike ever occurred when involving both nationalities. You had some general strikes, Chicago being one of the important organizing centers of that. Particularly it was the center for the May Day and the 8-hour movement, 1886 and 1888.
8-hour workday?
8-hour workday. A working day at that time here was 16 hours. They wanted a shorter work day. They wanted pay for overtime work, and they wanted to close shop. Now, the depth of national chauvinism was very steep among white workers in general. But there was a factor that played a tremendous role in this, that turned things in the working class's favor. You had the groups active in was one group called the Knights of Labor, which brought and introduced radical ideas. And you had communists here, the utopian socialist types that introduced Marxist ideas. We know that for a fact because in 1850 they had a newspaper called Talkin, and they were active here. And the combination of that made it possible for a more conscious, advanced white grouping of radicals that struggled with the leadership and the members of the white unions.
Imagine that.
Approximately 42 or 44 different white unions. They struggled and struggled and struggled with them. They argued with them that if you do not join your quote-unquote class brothers, you are objectively working against your interests. And it took some doing, but that is what brought about the class unity. When they finally joined and were persuaded by these more conscious white leaders and workers, it became like an atom bomb. You now, the next day, on November 8th, they all came out. Started October 24th with 2,000 to 3,000. On November 8th, over 25,000 people came out. And then shut the entire city down, except the longshoremen, by the way. But this was the situation. Prentice Union, there was no electricity yet. Light was done by gas. Gas Union. All types of different crafts and what have you. Made it impossible for the longshoremen work to do their job. You see. No boat moved, no cigar was rolled, nothing could produce, and when nightfall fell, it's all dark. Kind of bring it to the end, we'll get back. But what came out of that was they got a 25% raise increase. Not the 2 to 3% that you see these clowns fighting for today. But you know, the cost of living immediately eradicates. They got a shorter working hour from 16 hours to 10 hours. They did not get the closed shop. The New Orleans Picayune at that time was called the New Orleans Democrat. There was a German paper, there was a French paper during that time, and there was another paper called The Beat, some others. All of them played the role of collaborating with the bosses in race baiting. And they all played that role, a century-old method of divide and conquer. There were articles in the paper that ran, Negroes gone mad! Negroes attacking white women everywhere, all kinds of stuff. To promote hysteria and hatred, you know, to divide them up. There were attempts to bring scabs in from Mississippi, Texas, Alabama.
None of that stuff happens anymore.
But the scabs were not able to break the strike. It was so tightly organized. You know what it means to be welded? You ever seen somebody weld something in steel, welded? They then called on the governor, who was Murphy Foster, to send the troops. In fact, the employers said to Governor Foster, we will pay the soldiers. And this just kind of more empowered the workers. God, they're going to pay them what we fighting for. This is it. So troops were sent. But they were so well organized, they could not break the strike.
That's amazing.
So in the months and years ahead, it was a very important victory. And it was the first time that the multinational class shut an entire major metropolitan down, general strike. First general multinational strike was here. But in the months and years ahead, because the American Federation of Labor, which was a craft organization, refused to go amongst and further organize the workers, and refused to play a leading role in championing against all this, what we call racist hysteria and ideas today. In time, the employing class was able to redivide and make gains again. So it's very important for people to understand there's an incorrect way of thinking when people say, oh, that stuff don't work. And you can't do nothing about it. That ain't gonna work, I'm telling you. It's not gonna be successful. You can't look at life like that. You gotta look at this thing very carefully. It's a struggle. It is a struggle going on between different classes. There's a struggle going on with different states. All types of tactics are used to divide, to mislead, to lie, to deceive, keep you divided. So you got, it's not because it didn't work, it's because errors sometimes are made in our leadership. Sometimes we don't have the most dedicated leadership. You know, there's errors made in the process. You know, so we have to study to maximize what we can learn from these various struggles, so that we don't repeat those errors.
Thank you for the digression.
Okay, now let me get back to this. I lost the computer. I can't start this whole thing over. Okay, all right, now from 1968 to 1975, I laid out generally what was going on. From 1980 to 2000, probably can speak now without the machine.
Yeah, you got
These are the things that were going on in New Orleans to make you aware. Number one, you still had party building as the main task, but there was a serious decline of serious work on that, given the fact that the last socialist state existing at that time in the world was a state called Albania. With the death of its leader, Hoxha, within 2 years later, after all the attacks by the American government and other revisionist states, particularly the former Soviet Union, which is no longer socialist, it was defeated. It's been overthrown. And so that has impacted the world's movement. Some of these groupings just weren't sober enough to accept the fact that this is all part of the fight. Because once you are able to succeed and see state power, it becomes another struggle to sustain it and hold on to it. But that's a longer conversation that I don't want to get into right now. So in New Orleans, the work turned the party building decline. The work in other areas increased, stepped up. What was that work? One, the work took the form of work to further emancipate, further agitate and struggle for the complete emancipation of the African American people. That took a particular form in struggles against police abuse, what we came to popularize as police terror. One of the most celebrated cases was the case of the 4 people who were murdered in Algiers as a result of a police officer getting caught in a drug deal. That struggle is very similar to the struggle going on today. From that time to almost 2000, a mass organization group known as the African American Liberation League came into being. Under this brother's leadership, they handled well over 30 some odd cases in almost 20 some odd years. Almost all those cases they handled were victorious. I want to explain to you what I mean by that. When I say victorious, I'm not saying that all the police who murdered these people were jailed. No. 3 cops out of 26 cops were jailed for the killing of our people in Algiers. Those 23 got away. And those 3 only served no more than a year in prison. The cops we exposed in various murders, it's been very difficult to get quote-unquote justice, because the enemy does not relinquish a fight when he or she is caught. We were able to show how the police planted a gun in Gerard Glover's case, the brother who shot down on the back of a motorbike. We got a conviction. Then the state turned around and said, "Oh, we got to get him in trial." You know, this stuff was, man, this cat could get a good. It couldn't get a real good break. So we're gonna give him another trial. We're gonna move this shit to Lafayette. Y'all give a good justice. Y'all give a justice. Of course, what happened? They got the kind of jury they wanted, and the Benz got exonerated. The victory is this, of all those cases, is that we were able to further educate the broad masses, not just black people, all progressive thinking people in general, that we live under a state that is corrupt. It is rampantly corrupt. It is a terroristic state. It is just like Israel. There's no real difference between the bestialness and butcheriness and brutality that this state carries out than any of these other right-wing, reactionary, fascist states around the world. That, I think, makes it a victory. Because it further educates and raises the consciousness of people of the true nature of the state you live under. Today, this sham thing going down there on PATOIS, that's all it is. Do not be surprised if these cops get off. People say to me, you're crazy, These people now got cops exposing cops. We had the same thing. We had a black cop expose how the white cops covered up a Reverend Newport's killing. We still getting real justice from that. And the shameful part about the black cops saying, I did all this dirty work to be accepted by my white colleagues, and they still kick me around. What you must pay attention to, and you must pay attention, seriously, to all these types of social phenomena. You have to ask yourself, how is it possible a person can murder someone and be charged not with the capital crime of murder, but be charged with the violation of civil rights? I'm going to tell you what that means. A bunch of bullshit. The state district attorney's office has never prosecuted a cop, a white cop. Never. That should tell you something. The penalty for violation of civil rights means this. If I'm found guilty, my punishment is not as severe. If Connick, and now his current agent, was serious and sincere, genuine about doing their job, they would have taken these cases. They would have prosecuted these guys. These guys don't care. And guess where they're going to go? Guess where they will go? It's obvious where they'll go. They're going to go. So all this stuff is not, it's played out in every major city. Now bring charges, state charges again, bring federal violations to appease the masses, to make them feel, and the clowns are all put up after the murders of our people in Algiers. The first black mayor called a midnight meeting with all the politicians, William Jefferson, all the ones that work in that time. Do everything you can to make sure black masses do not have an uproar. We've got to keep the lid on it. Because our senior partners of the Anglo-American community are instructing us to make sure they're counting on us. Keep things quiet. Okay, but anyway, for those years, we handled most of the brutality cases. Second, it was a period.
Some of those names, because people may not know.
Oh, all right. Some of the worst cases, all of them were terrible. Some of the worst cases was Adolph Archer. Adolph Archer was charged for the shooting of a police officer. We argued that the bullet that killed Adolph, the bullet or bullets that killed Adolph Archer should be made available to prove from the forensic examination that he did this. We argued that the body of the police officer who they buried so quickly should be exhumed so we can see the forensic examination. They didn't do any of that stuff. They got this guy, brought him to the police station over there across from French Quarter. They beat the guy to death. He was killed there. That's a horrendous case. The case of, Mac, I have to help me with some of these. The case of Virgil Bro, a youngster playing in his neighborhood, stopped by two police officers who claimed that he looked like he was going to go for a gun. Took his life out. The case of James Stewart over there in St. Rock community area. Charles Stewart. Child had already been constantly harassed by police. He saw police, he just assumed he was playing marbles, assumed they gave him a necessary. He took off. And the cops argued that we saw a glitter, a silver looking glitter. Thought it was a gun. Bang, bang! But, and then of course they plant these things. The case of Gerard Glover. They shot him and they planted a gun. The case of James Billy, one of the Algiers Four. The mistake they made there was the brother was left-handed, but they planted the gun by the right hand. And so we were able to show he was murdered because he's left-handed, he can't use his right hand. There's so many examples. The case of Matthew Cohia, the case of the brother who was killed a block away from the racetrack, can't think of his name right now. He was in and out of trouble, all kinds of things. The government argued. The government murdered him in front of a whole bunch of witnesses standing in their door in order to be sure you don't say anything or come back for you. So what you see going on right now with Gerard Glover being burned to death, with that black cop who probably saw something being executed, and they telling people he committed suicide, but they don't know what a suicide note is. They claim that he made a suicide note. His wife said to this day, 5 years later, I ain't seen no damn suicide note. You bastard murdered my wife, my husband. My husband must have saw something. It's the same thing being played out. And it's not a thing where we have been arguing for reforming the police department. It's impossible to reform the police department. It's like Mark Morial that goes around the country talking about we must reform capitalism. That's some intellectual, that's completely unintellectual. I'll be frank with you. You can't reform something that's already evil. You can't reform something that's already innately inherent and an oppressor to you. You have to destroy it. And that's one of the biggest lessons the heroes and heroines of the 1811 popularized. It's not enough to run away from slavery and become a maroon. It's not enough to run from slavery and live and be a runaway. We have to kill, destroy the beast.
What's 1811? What happened?
We're not going to get into that. So, during this period from 75 to 2000, what other form of work was taking place? Other form of work was taking place on not as wide a scale as the work that was taking place with all of this police abuse and I should say white chauvinist abuse. There was a lot of anti-war work, anti-imperialist war work in the form of struggles against exposing what is taking place in Iraq, exposing what is taking place in El Salvador, Latin America, and Haiti.
Grenada.
And Grenada and Panama. All of these countries tie into the seaport of New Orleans, and in terms of the foreign policy, and Nicaragua, by the way.
How did they tie into the port?
Well, the goods and the shipping of agricultural commodities comes through the port. The port is not the second largest port anymore in the country, but it's among the top 5. We were able to go to Nicaragua, for instance, in 1983, I believe. Yeah, 83, 4th anniversary. And it was amazing to see the level of struggle taking place there to rid themselves of American occupation and American imperialism. We had a demonstration in front of the United States Embassy, and we were almost seriously harmed because the Marines there who were guarding the place took offense that everybody out there was American, and we had the audacity to be picketing an American embassy. And you ever seen this part? I'm sure most of y'all saw this part in the movie, Few Good Men. What is it? No. Yeah, I think it's Few Good. No, it's not Few Good Men. The movie, the fiction movie, where what you call him is defending these 2 black soldiers. And there's a certain point toward the end when Jack Nicholson says, "Oh, Few Men." Okay. And when he espouses this whole thing, he's making ridicule of I forget the other Tom name. Tom Cruise. When he espouses this whole thing about
You can't handle it.
no, when he espouses this whole thing about, we live in a world where we got men on the fence on the wall, and it really, to me, that was the best part of the movie. And this literally epitomized what we saw in Nicaragua. Those soldiers were saying to us, "Y'all got the audacity to pick at your own country, and we're standing here trying to save and protect you from these so and so. This guy, they really frightened us because we thought they were gonna shoot us." And that was in the time when Reagan called for the embargo, had naval ships on both sides of Nicaragua. And so we were kind of worried we were going to be able to get out of here to get back home anyway. But anyway, during this time, there was quite a bit of anti-imperialist work going on in the city. The last thing during this time, besides some trade union work, supporting all these strikers, we were involved with 3 longshoremen strikes, 2 bus drivers strike. We aided in a garbage worker strike, and we tried to organize a public union. Besides that, there was a struggle for progressive and quality education by attacking white supremacy in the form of a struggle to change the names of these schools, which had its beginnings from our research in the early 1950s. And so we were able to learn that it was anything new we were starting. It was something we were continuing from our people who had organized boycotts against this nonsense of praising this guy to now struggling to get all these names changed.
You mean the McDonald's thing?
Yes.
John McDonald.
We were able, through joint effort with other people, get 23 names changed of the 132 schools in the city at that time.
And why did you want to change the name?
Well, we want the names changed because, you see, almost all the names in our city were named after either a famous slave owner or they were named after a Confederate hero. Now we're proud to say we have names like Harry Tubman and others who fought against enslavement. The work on that field is not over. We have to regroup and continue it. We still got a lot of John McDonald names around here. They got to go. Here and in Jefferson Parish, by the way.
Was John McDonald a slaveholder?
He was at one point a very large slaveholder with his buddy Paul Tulane, who was the #1 contributor of the Confederacy from here. Paul Tulane built Tulane University, Tulane University. So, in brief, there has been continuous struggle. In brief, there is always going to be struggle whenever there's oppression. So that's just you take chemistry and you learn constants, the importance of constants. That's a constant. Wherever there's labor and capital, whether there's exploited and exploiting, and whether there's rich and poor, there's going to be struggle. The question becomes, when I said earlier, there is no quick answer or quick solution. It's going to require people who have to study, who have to seriously examine, who have to be guided by history, who have to see ideologically, is this idea correct or is this idea wrong? Are these politics correct or are they wrong? Is the form of struggle that we're doing and the form of organization that we're holding, is that correct or not? Many of these answers, not all, but many of them have already been answered. You could take 4 revolutions, any one you want to choose, and you will see the same questions, the same problems coming up. Very much similar to what a doctor has to do when they do surgery on your body. My daughter is a doctor. And as complicated as medical surgery is, as complicated as the requirements to operate on somebody, particularly the brain, it is still not as it is still far less complicated than the organization and coordination of millions of people into action to achieve a needed and common objective. It's not impossible. It just has to be seriously approached. Because most of these struggles that are taking place in this country and around the world are not revolutionary struggles. They're what I call reformist or liberal struggles. Reformism is the philosophy that all it takes is to make a tiny reform, a better improvement, but the existing order remains intact. Okay? So the guy gives me 10 cents raise economically, I got 10 more pennies, all right? But he's still exploiting me. Okay? And at some point he's going to take these reforms back. Okay? Politically, some people in a struggle right now with garbage contracts, right? All right? They've been defeated, basically. All right? The powers that be have defeated them. Okay? Because they've been made to submit and take a smaller package and more work. Okay, all right. If they want to change that relationship, they're going to have to fight harder, you know. We got a situation downtown at the federal courthouse where some people are saying, you know, we need more black cops. That's the answer to this problem. We get more black cops. Hey, we won't have all these kind of killers.
That used to be an argument.
You know?
Nobody's arguing that.
You know? I can't begin to tell you all the abuse I take from those brothers and sisters. One lied in court about me running a red light. The judge just threw one of my charges out because I exposed the fact that, look, she didn't even check the brake tag, which had expired. She didn't check which had expired. She could have got me on all this stuff. She is so incompetent. I'm surprised you didn't get this thing. You could have made some more money for her. I'm trying to get you on this. But with that, I will, stop. And I'm sorry I didn't have a copy to give you because I think it's important to have. You can't remember all these things. You really can't. So what I'll do is, We'll get this thing straight. I'll print it out. I'll leave it with Wendy. If you like a copy, you share it with her.
Maybe you can email it and we can put it up on the website. She knows more about that.
Okay.
That
But
way-
this only serves as a brief introduction. But you have there's a lot of rich history here. A lot of what I would call class conscious history. When I say class conscious, I'm referring to people who are consciously trying to bring a scientific understanding to the masses of what their oppression really is. Okay? But you have the same thing in every town, every city, not just this country, but the world. Okay? It's not any fundamental. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What our tradition is?
Oh, I had a question. I didn't
That's
know-
our tradition.
Okay.
Is to just ask questions.
Yeah. You mentioned, I think you had mentioned SNCC and a couple of those groups during the civil rights movement. And you said a lot of people that were working in the civil rights movement, a lot of the, I assume you meant principals in the civil rights movement are now, you said they are now on the other side. Any specific people you want to mention? Well, I mean, not, because I didn't know what you were alluding to.
It's not really that important, but what I meant is this is a lifetime struggle. I just don't kid you. It really is. And there are going to be times in a lifetime struggle where you're fighting an enemy who's not going to rationally or peacefully always fight you. You're in a ring. Like Muhammad Ali, you're in a ring. You have a plan, supposedly, how you're going to beat this man. But he's going to throw a counter blow at all times. You got to have a plan B, plan C. And in the course of life, some of us wear down. Some of us consciously give up. Some of us consciously cross the side and become what's called a traitor. These terms and words I'm using, they're not like in the movie I was referring to, they're not like simple footnotes. They are serious terms. We have to study them, One thing I forgot to say as an example of that period is that we were probably, I don't know enough about early 19th century history from 19 to 1940. I don't know sufficient enough here about this situation. So I consider myself a pupil historian, okay? But I do know since when people got finally got the right to vote, we were the first to begin using the parliamentary election process as a means to popularize these ideas. We ran 3 campaigns. The first campaign, we ran for mayor. And we only ran for mayor not because we wanted to be mayor. We ran for mayor, we were trying to find tactics to keep the struggle alive in Algiers. So I ran for mayor. I was able to use that position, that campaign, to keep popularizing the struggle in Algiers. And it became a thorn in the side of our enemies. The mayor, in fact, they blocked me from speaking at these daggone silly ass debates, especially trying to keep you off TV. So I only got about 600 or 700 votes, okay? We never spent any great amount of money.
Coming out of that experience.
But coming out of that experience and studying more, you say, we need to do more of this. Because it's a great opportunity to popularize these ideas. So we did it again. This time, we approached it more maturely. We spent $650. Our theme was Make the Rich Pay. We popularized with tens of, at that time, I owned a press shop. Mr. Susan was the manager, okay? He really ran it, but I just owned it in name, okay? But we were able to use that and popularize tens and tens and tens of thousands of leaflets and flyers. And we had a program that talked about, we got to raise the wages up to at least $8 an hour. It was like 1987. Now it's like you need about $16. We got to repeal the right to work law. We had a number of economic demands, we had a number of foreign policy demands, and we had a number of political demands. These police officers not only in jail, they in prison, a whole lot of them. And they got around, I got 8,400 votes. I got 4% of the electorate of those who voted. My mother came to me and said, son, if you only had money. Now, the mistake we made was we should have continued. We didn't. See, we didn't. Because if we could have located just 10% of 8,400 people and put it in one organization, we could have built a machine, I'm trying to say. And I'm saying the movement, quote unquote, has in many ways a lot of misgivings and immature thinking on some things. It doesn't mean you should become like the Democrats and Republicans. You should just use that to popularize these ideas that help raise people's understanding, help people get clear on what we should be fighting for. This last election, it's not going to be in the games for us. It's not going to be in the games for laboring people. Some people get upset when that's said, but that's just true. Just study these things. It's true. There will be no gains for the laboring population or the African American people, no matter how the elections will come out. And the gentleman who won the position of the new congressman, you study what he's campaigned for, the position he's taken on other things, you'll see that it's not going to be any change for us. No, we're talking about workers. But just listen to what they say. None of them denounced the unjust imperialist war where 4,400 people had lost their lives. It's not a just war. You determine that things are determined. The way you determine the progressiveness or the rightness or the correctness of a thing is by its aim. Always use that as your guide. If the aim of a thing is to further enslave a people, to steal its resources under the earth, then it's unjust. If the aim of the thing is to free me from oppression and emancipate me from oppression by others, then it's just. Of all the wars America has been involved in, all the military invasions and conflicts, only 2 wars have been progressive that she fought. The Civil War, where our people transformed into a war of liberation for them, and the war against fascists. All these other wars are unjust.
No,
it's all about
the American Revolution was a just war.
I'm saying, what I'm saying is,
Since the United States.
since the United States came to me, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry about may have over-talked.
No, keep going if people have questions. I gotta go use the facility, talk amongst yourselves. Sorry, I'm just not feeling very well.
I'll ask a question if no one else. We gonna see him. I'm curious, Mr. Waters, if you could talk about. I'm really interested in the African American Liberation League. If there was a particular moment where something kind of crystallized for you, where you realized that that entity had real traction and was really turning into a success. If there's a particular memory, maybe where that was clear.
Well, there were many, but I think the best way I can answer that is this way. There was a white worker who was murdered in Jefferson Parish. He was a plumber. And it was a quick rush to judgment. Police got called, they took the chase, they got into a house and opened fire and killed this white guy. It was near January, I forget the year, as we were approaching Carmel. And black people went and talked to the family and said that this thing was scourge of police murders and terrorists. This kind of thing does not regularly happen to white people. The oppression that we suffer, we are doubly oppressed. It's different from the oppression that white workers suffer. But here was a moment in history where representatives of both people came together and they had a protest on the corner, I believe, of Canal and Clayton during Mardi Gras, the height of Mardi Gras. Unfortunately, the consciousness of white workers was not as developed and as high as it could be, given the role the media played in encouraging white people, don't come out there. And I think one of the biggest things that have to be overcome, I say this to white people all the time. We need people. The movement needs people. The community needs people, particularly white people, who will concentrate 100+% of their work around white people. We still have a problem today of white people who want to hang around black people. And as long as that is, that means the work that has to be done among the white workers will not get done. They will be still subjected to and subordinated to all the jingoism, incorrect thinking, the prejudices from the pulpit to the government to all the other things, other forms of organization that exist. Y'all can go places we can't go. So what I say to you, I say this. I would encourage you to seriously study, read about the works of John Brown. Most of us have been miseducated that this man was a maniac. He was crazy. He was a religious man. He had some firm principles that people should study, especially like I would encourage people to study the life of Karl Marx, who could have just got on either street and chose a different way. I think if that could be done, how much further development will our struggle, which has certain commonalities, grow and mature? So I'll come back and answer that.
Rob?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. In light of these 21 officers that's been indicted, which I have no faith in the system at all. What's your opinion on like, you know, I didn't been in trials, just maybe a couple of months ago, I was telling, you know, they just, how the officer from the Danzinger case has strangled Gerald MacArthur, and you know, it was a civil case, but they, no matter what kind of evidence we presented, they was found, you know, not guilty, and I'm seeing officers that's turning on other officers. My fear again, because they gone in different rural areas to pick the majority of whites and 3 or 4 blacks, that this case, no matter how much evidence they present, is going to turn out the same way, as well as the Danzinger case.
Well,
My opinion is, put it back
yeah.
in.
Yeah, well, I think the main thing that we got to understand is that the police are part of the state apparatus. That they are just a local division of the national police, and the Justice Department is part of the national security apparatus. And they don't turn on each other unless they're trying to save face for the whole system. They want us to believe that the Justice Department is on our side and that they're going to punish these police. And they do want to send a message that you just can't do this kind of outrageous stuff. You just can't go murder people without us saying something about it. But we're going to take care of you because we always take care of you. So we're going to sentence you to jail right now, but you can appeal it. And in a couple of years, you'll be out. And we'll give you a job somewhere else. I mean, but the main thing is they were doing exactly what the state wants them to do. And that was to oppress black people, keep us in our place. They said that they didn't want any looting, that they were in control, and they could do any damn thing they wanted to do. Now, the thing that I'm most impressed, that I think that we have to fight for is, we think Compass and Riley ought to be on trial. They were in charge. Nothing is done if you're in charge unless you go along with it. And we know damn well they were part of the cover-up, no matter what Riley says and what Compass says. They knew what happened on Danzig. They knew what happened in front of the convention center when they killed that man on that car. And so for them to lie and say that they don't know is to not punish the higher-ups. One of the things that they established in Nuremberg and the Nazi trials is that you generals, we ain't gonna put the private on trial. We're gonna put the generals on trial because you're the ones who directed the whole play. And I am sure that no matter what Riley says, he told people and Nagin told people that we are under martial law and we want to control y'all. What's her name? The governor? Blanco said that I'm going to order troops and they're going to shoot to kill. This is what she said. And everybody in the world saw her say this. And for them, the main concern was that we have black people in New Orleans who don't have a control mechanism anymore. And we want to let them know that we're still in charge to do that. And I think that we've got to increase this discussion to say who was ultimately responsible. It wasn't just the cops who fired the shots. It was who told them that they had permission to behave in that manner. And somebody should have to pay for it.
I just would like for you to say something about the tours that you do. Before we go, there's some, the people, we have until 9 o'clock for real. And because the people who are gonna lock up are gonna go at 9. So we have about 15 minutes. And I just wanna be sure, including other people's questions, that you get to say a little bit about the tours that you do so that any of us who are interested could take a tour.
I manage a company called Hidden History Tours. And essentially what it is, it's an operation whereby we introduce subject matter to people that's not well known, that has been suppressed, that's hidden. And I tend to believe that such an operation could be done in any city in America. And the tours that's offered at this time is the premier tour is called the 1811 Slavery Road Tour. There's 2 parts to it. There's a walking tour where we take you to spots in the quarter, some of which other tours take you. We tell you a whole different lot of information about it. It's essentially about where were the rebels under the leadership of Charles Long were trying to get to. It goes to capture the capital of, they're trying to capture New Orleans, which was the capital of Orleans territory at that time, to free themselves and free all the slaves. That's a walking tour. And then we have, it takes about an hour and 15 minutes. And then we have a bus tour, where we take you up the river and begin the tour in a little town called La Place. And we work our way back to New Orleans, and it ends at Riverview, Williams Boulevard and River Road, which is in Kent. It's a 3.5-hour tour. In addition, we have a tour called the Catholic Church as Slave Trader. That's a walking tour in the quarter. It begins at Jackson Square, and we bring you to the St. Louis Cathedral. We go inside, we identify the number of names that are on the ceiling, who these people were, and we try to introduce to you that besides the little boy abuse that has cost the church over $2 billion, we try to introduce to you the level of abuse, sexual abuse, and oppression the church did in the slave trade of our people. We bring you to certain other spots in the forest. Then there's the walking tour on the 1892 General Strike. Most of that is conducted on what's called the American side, a society that was expanding from the French Quarter to the other side of Canal Street. And that consists of about 10 stops. And we're trying to finish our research on another tour we hope to be able to do soon. It's on a famous local heroine named Fannie C. Williams. And then there's one more, this particular tour, Mr. Super curator, It's called Rebirth. It's a tour on the local black history and the post-Katrina. So it's a marvelous tour for people who come to town from various different organizations like ours to get the true deal, so to speak, as opposed to the Democratic and Republican Party with the city council with what's happening in post-Katrina with our people.
And then what do people have to do to take any of these courses?
All they have to do is take the card I'm gonna give them right now, and go to a computer and tell them everything on the website.
How many people are interested in the tour?
The slogan of
You should organize.
the company is called. Let me read it correctly. It's called "What They Don't Teach You in the Great American Schools." Now on the back is the website. I don't have a pen on me. You got to change one thing where it says .com, historyhidden.com. You got to change it to .net. So you got to change it now. You're like me, walk out here, you can't remember things. See, I'm trying to catch up with Mr. John O'Neill there. He has some. He was born early, so he has. I'll know he's catch up. I'll know he's catch up. He has something a constant. He was born early.
I know, I'm really interested in taking some of these courses. If other people are, then we could go on now.
Another thing, of course, we're going to be commemorating the 200th anniversary of the 1811 slavery vote in January, so we definitely need some help for people who are interested. Let us know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how we do it, but I think from the list, we could maybe just send out an email.
Okay. I'm
Word.
Don't forget, you gotta change that .com and .net. Get over, bring it up, and get this thing out on you. You got a pen or pencil on you now, strike out com and put NET.
And my little tell me everything. So, we're at about, burning desire time. So if there is one last, this is an opportunity to ask it. You have your opportunity. Matt? You did.
What else did you use the press shop for? What kind of stuff happened in that space?
We tried to make enough prints, do enough printing to make a living. We weren't that very successful. But we kept a lot of propaganda in the streets. Constantly.
And then when the internet came along as powerful.
But Malcolm has shared some of that material. You were here for this, right? So, yeah, he walks around with a lot of it in his mouth.
No, unfortunately, a lot of that stuff got ruined in the flood, but we should have archived that. We used to put out newspapers every month and a couple of flyers in the month. It's prolific.
Well, I'm sorry, y'all, to have been blowing my nose through the whole thing. But I just really want to thank you for sharing your time and making arrangements for the space. Would you say one little thing about the space we're in?
Well, it's a very historic spot. In the 1950s, a particular church was a rallying spot for many people, teachers, educators, ministers, volunteers who meet here, assemble, gather, proceed out of here and march to Canal Street to carry out various different struggles on Canal Street. I think they probably tied in many of the people that were organizing it during those days, the boycott we had on Drive Street. I never knew that.
This was the core church, the core headquarters.
Congress of Racial Equality.
Yeah. And, but this is the oldest AME church in the city. It was built by free blacks in 1844. This was the non-Catholic, because you know, the Catholics had St. Augustine, but this was when black Protestants built their church.
Thank you for that. I think it's important to just know those kinds of things as we can collect them. And I am grateful for Mr. Waters to come, and I'm really looking forward to the tours. And
Plus, Leon didn't say anything, but his parents were two of the most prominent black educators in the city. His dad was an assistant school superintendent, had been a principal back in the Desire Project for many, many years at Helen Edwards, and his mother was the principal over at the St. Bernard Project for, what, 43 years? His mother, yeah. Maurice Waters, they named the school after her.
May I come?
In fact, when I first came down here, I used to get on Leon. I said, Leon, why don't we go around and tell folks that who your daddy is? And at least that'll give us some entree.
And I just want to lift up that, I'm so glad you came. I just want to lift up that there are people who are carrying this history in their bodies, in their hearts and spirits, who are everywhere, you know? Like that's part of how we build this revolution that you're reminding us about, is to notice that there are people who are holding this information wherever there are oppressed people. And so the story of our liberation is walking among us, you know, like for you all to be able to connect. So just know that, you know, we can take the opportunity to listen to the people who, you know, are walking in our way. You just never know, you know, so if we take the time to just know that even if we are new in a place, that the struggle has been there before us. And that the struggle will continue any place that there are oppressed people. There are always people fighting for justice. So we'll just finish up, and when we're done, if people would help to carry these chairs back up to the choir stand, which is up there under the lit cross, then, but you gotta.
Yeah, just really quickly, I know some folks came in a bit late. If there's anyone who'd like to sign up for the mailing list to find out about these events, this is a monthly series. Anyone who hasn't, who doesn't currently receive the emails who would like to, please sign this sheet of paper. If you can just put up a hand so I know, to make sure everyone's faces are covered. Okay.
Yeah, all right. So, Lord, Lord, I got right. Oh, Lord, Lord, I got right. Oh, Lord, 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 I got right. I got right to the tree of life. And you got right. Oh, you got right. Oh, you got right. You got right to the tree of life. And
life.